Hold on. Get ready. We get to do the same show again later. And we are live. Welcome to the MLB Strategy Show. It is Tuesday, September 13th. I am Josh Engelman. I am joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by PrizePicks. 11 games to talk about for today. So hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Because baseball today is the only game in town. No football. I mean, we have football content. We've got an NFL strategy show first look coming up after this, but we don't have to compete with any NFL games tonight. So that should be good. Adam, how did it go yesterday for you? NFL, MLB, anything good?
Pretty normal. Just lost a little bit across the board. Most importantly, went to bed early, slept. Don't feel quite as awful post-wedding as I was.
What is early in this statement?
I don't know, midnight.
Okay. So after I went to bed, still.
Yeah. And it wasn't really by design. I took Benadryl because my allergies were bad, and I was doing week 2 best ball drafts on DraftKings because those are a lot of fun based on overreactions. But then I just kept falling asleep mid-draft and auto-drafting players that are out for the next 8 weeks.
So sharp. So sharp. You can't beat it. Well, we have 11 games to get through. We need to be out of here in 50 minutes. So we're going to pick up the pace. That should be pretty easy to do considering there's a lot of stuff that we don't really need to talk about all that deeply. Are you ready to get it started?
Sure.
Do we have ownership yet? We do, as of 22 seconds ago. Good looking out, folks. Stuck the landing on that one. Let me grab this quickly because it's obviously important.
Yeah, I wasn't late. I was just making sure that they, were on time.
Might need a rerun, but we'll see when we get there. This is going to be ridiculous. If this ownership is to be believed, and I think that it is at the very least pretty directionally accurate, we got a really ridiculous 11-game slate for one person's ownership. Not that he doesn't deserve it, but
DeGrom, Jacob.
Yeah. Wait. Okay. So there's 20. Should be 20. Okay. Top stacks tool is still yesterday, but I'll worry about that later.
It normally comes out like a minute after.
Yeah. All right. Nats and Orioles. 3.8 run implied total for the Nats. 4.7 for the Orioles.
Today, by the way.
Okay. It must have been immediately after I said that. Corey Abbott and Dean Kramer going in this one. Abbott not owned. Either it is the long man or is starting. I got him in for 3 innings. Not important for today. Dean Kramer, 1% owned at 7,300. How do you feel about the pitching here?
Not great. Corey Abbott, not somebody that is particularly good at all. And Dean Kramer's decent, but not really that good from a DFS standpoint. As an Orioles fan, I feel relatively good about him pitching today, but not a guy that I think I need to get to on an 11-game slate at 7,300.
All right. That one's easy to talk about. And bats are not as easy to talk about here. Your Orioles, number 2 in top stack, number 1 in ownership at 14% owned. I actually have them as my number 1 stack, but with a slightly lower percentage. But either way, I understand the appeal. They are 7th in value as well. How do you feel here about the Orioles going up against the Nats? Good park, at least for power, good implied total. Maybe a little overowned, but I know why it's happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think it looks pretty good. For some reason, there's not data on Abbott's splits this year, but overall, just not a particularly good pitcher. 19.6% strikeout percentage, 5.8 xFIP, 2.3 home runs per 9 in 12 total appearances, 32 innings with Washington this year. Actually, that's in his 5 starts. So, you're getting that, and then you're getting this Baltimore team that just has solid hitting. Mullins, Rutschman, Santander, Mountcastle, Henderson, all of those guys are good. Urias is fine. Hayes is fine. You have speed from Mateo. You have a little bit of power when he actually hits the ball from Odor. So I do think it's a good lineup, really top to bottom as far as, the couple of guys at the bottom that aren't the best hitters are also relatively inexpensive and at least offer some semblance of upside. So you can help balance out those salaries on Mullins, Rutschman, Santander. So I do like them here. Obviously, the ownership is worth paying attention to, but there are also some cheap bats that are going to allow you to build good lineups around them as well.
I'm a little bit light here on Baltimore, but I don't say that as somebody that doesn't think they're actually a really good team to get to today. It's just not how it's breaking down. A lot of similar teams. Like, here are some of the implied run totals that I see on the side of my screen. Orioles 4.7, Jays 4.7, Mets 4.6, Yankees 4.7, Twins 4.8, Cardinals 4.7, Rangers 4.6, White Sox 4.7. Those are all 1/10 of a run in either direction in like 8 or 9 teams. So there's a lot of similarity in terms of scoring out there today. And I think we could see a little bit of things in flux.
Yeah. One thing that I think does bump the Orioles for me a little bit too, and I've mentioned it typically in regard to Kansas City, but the way that I build my lineups kind of revolving around like optimal percentage, the fact that Adley Rutschman is a catcher is just going to make him look really good. The fact that Gunnar Henderson has multi-position eligibility is just going to make him look more valuable than he already would be. So there are 2 guys in the top 5 there too, where for me, it's just going to end up getting pushed up a little bit because they individually at their respective positions are such good plays.
All righty. Anything for you on the Nats? They are also 5th in ownership, but 15th in top stack. They are high value team for today. They are 3rd. And considering we have an $11,800 pitcher pulling 70% of the ownership, you need to find some value somewhere. Do you like the Nats? Because this is a team that I find to be pretty easy to get away from.
Yeah, I don't have too much reason to be interested there. Kramer allowing well below 1 home run per 9 innings, 4.12 xFIP, only a 3.8 implied run total. Lane Thomas is cheap. You have some cheap power in this lineup since basically the entire lineup is inexpensive, but I don't really think there's a lot that I need to be interested in.
From a cash perspective, I'm guessing we're getting a little bit of this game at the very least.
Yeah, I would think that at the very least, like Gunnar Henderson's probably on the short list. Clearly, if you can find the salary, Adley Rutschman looks good, but with it being a DeGrom slate, I'm not sure that paying $5,400 at catcher is going to be the route that you take. But yeah, like and Mullins too. He's an outfield option. I'm not sure he is the outfielder, but
yeah, I'm getting Gunnar in like basically a third of the lineups. Cedric Mullins in about a third of the lineups. Rutschman in about 15%. Nobody else higher than that. And obviously, we know what the pitching is going to look like. I don't have anything else here. Interesting game to talk about. Really curious to see what the Orioles ownership looks like as we get closer to lock, because they could just as easily become like the team I have the most of, or, ownership creeps up a little bit more and it gets even worse for me. So a lot of moving parts here.
Yeah. And I'm running just an early version of cash lineups with the Stokastic projections. And right now, so I mean, it's still running, but Mullins is getting in there a lot. Hayes is actually in there a lot. I don't know if maybe we have him projected to hit higher.
Yeah, I have him 8th, so he's not showing up for 7th, me.
So kind of interesting. He's still getting in there a lot.
Okay.
Surprised Henderson's nowhere to be found.
That's weird because he's at the tops with Mullins for me. Like he is a legitimate option.
Yeah, he would be the one that I for sure think is going to get into a lot of builds just because it's really easy. But yeah, using the Stokastic projections, it's Mullins in a lot, Hayes in like half, Mountcastle in like 1 or 2, and Henderson just not there.
I didn't get Lane Thomas at all, at least not with anything major. 12%, like on the edge, but like nothing crazy.
Yeah, I really just why Henderson's not getting in.
I don't know. We'll find out. Blue Jays, who were not very good yesterday, taking on the Rays. 4.7 run implied total for the Jays, 4.3 for the Rays. I believe this is Mitch White and Josh Fleming as the long man for the Rays. It seems like Mitch White is right. Josh Fleming as the long man is probably slightly up in the air, but it seems like that is the answer. I don't find Fleming to be all that interesting. He didn't grade out well for me in 4 innings against the Jays. Mitch White, 6,500, could have been a decent value option in a different matchup, but to me isn't here against the Rays. I don't want any pitching.
Yeah, neither do I. And White, has really struggled this year as well. As a starter, 18% strikeout percentage, 4.45 xFIP. So maybe, getting a little bit unlucky there, given that his ERA is like 5.1, but just not a spot where I think I need to get to him. And then I'm with you. I mean, Fleming, I expect not to go super deep into this game and obviously has a difficult matchup against Toronto.
Let's talk bats here. These are teams that I normally do get to. Blue Jays, 11th in our top stack tool, 9th in ownership. I actually have them quite a bit higher in top stack. I'm not surprised by that either. Rays, 14th in top stack, 15th in top value. So neither one of these teams ranking all that highly for us. I'm much more likely to want to get to the bats here over anything else. I have 7% Blue Jays. I have 6% Rays. That, I think, breaks better for me than anything else that I would want. No giant priorities, but I'd like to get ownership to the bats. I think they're both talented teams.
Yeah, I'm there with you. Like I think Fleming's a decent enough pitcher. I don't love the matchup, but also the Blue Jays are good offensively. So that makes them interesting in tournaments. Also, I just noticed it. I'm not sure what DraftKings has. FanGraphs has Springs pitching for Tampa Bay.
Is that the first game? It's a
Oh, it's a
doubleheader today.
doubleheader. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, so Toronto, just from an upside standpoint, I think makes some sense. They are not pulling much ownership, and I'm always interested in Toronto when that's the case. For Tampa Bay, I think it's an okay matchup against White. It is a park boost for them as well. Didn't come through for me yesterday, but at 1% ownership, certainly don't mind taking some shots on them either.
I got to 8% Springer, 8% Guerrero. Those guys are basically owned there. 5% of my stacks are Rays. It's just a game where would you be all that surprised that one of these two teams have great days given how loaded their lineups are? I certainly wouldn't.
So. Yeah, no, not at all. It's just, obviously the pitching is decent, but no. Yeah, and for what it's worth, never mind, it's not even really worth mentioning. I can't get 2022 pitcher splits to load. So I went to last 90 days and was going to mention Fleming's, but he's throwing 82 pitches to righties and 78 to lefties. So who really cares?
For what it's worth, this is apparently worth nothing.
Yeah.
I got nothing else here.
Me neither.
All righty, schedule here for the rest of the day. First, 140 people in here, hit that like button. Schedule for the rest of the day. We've got the NFL First Look show coming up immediately after this. We're already getting into week 2 for the NFL. PGA Strategy Show is back at 1 p.m. You can talk to Ben as he's breaking down the Fortinet Championship. I think that's what it is, but the new season coming up this Thursday. Adam and I will be back for the deeper dive at 5. We'll have MLB Live before lock at 6. We've got the free tool today, which is our top stacks tool. We're going to talk about it throughout the show, so I hope you guys check it out. And our PGA rankings are free for this week, so make sure you're taking a look at everything we've got going. Mets and Cubs, here we go. 4.6 run implied total for the Mets, 2.2 for the Cubs, which what's really crazy is it could be lower if the Cubs weren't the Cubs, or if this was in a even bigger pitcher's park. I mean, this is a pretty big pitcher's park, but if the Cubs were the Rockies on the road or something, this might be a sub 2 line. 11,800 for DeGrom, 72% owned. I got him in everything.
Yeah, obviously the ownership is crazy, especially when you consider that he actually is somewhat correctly priced at 11,800. They didn't completely drop the ball at least, but he's just so much better than everybody. Garrett Cole's on this slate and has a 32% strikeout percentage this year, and he's nearly 10 points behind Jacob deGrom in strikeout percentage. 41.4% strikeout percentage, 1.65 xFIP, and we've talked about it on previous shows. Normally, I wouldn't really mention that 41% strikeout percentage too much because it's absurd and you assume it's going to go away. He has only made 7 starts this year, 43 1/3 innings. But last year, he struck out 45%. The year before that, he struck out 39. So I don't really think it's a crazy mark, especially just when you consider how good his stuff has looked this year as well. Averaging 99.3 miles an hour on his fastball. For context, his career average is 95.6. Slider is averaging 93 miles an hour. Somehow that's possible. His changeup also averaging 93 miles an hour. Just ridiculous stuff this year, and just hands down the top guy. We have him projected about 7 points higher than Garrett Cole.
So I was just about to ask that question. I see what I have him projected for. What do we have him at? I have not looked.
We have DeGrom at 26.8. We have Cole at 19.3.
So I generally run a little bit lower, it seems, in these sorts of spots. I have Jake deGrom projected for 30.
Yeah. To me, that's not even really crazy.
The
only
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Kind of makes me hesitate is how much above 30 can you realistically expect him to get often? But also the answer is a lot.
30.3 is where I have him, which is, I don't even know how to reconcile that.
Yeah.
I saw the number and I was like, oh shit, I must have typed in too many innings. And I was like, no, that's just him. I have him projected for 9 Ks in 6 1/3. Good strikeout matchup that could actually get better against the Cubs as well, just based on what I'm seeing. If Nico Herner's not in the lineup, that's a 12% K rate from Steamer. But anyway, I have 100% of deGrom, and I expect to have 100% of deGrom.
Yeah, I probably will too. Like he is certainly at the ownership level where like you could start just making a case like, okay, well, hopefully he just scores 20 something points. But the thing is, like you have to keep in mind, you don't need the nuts to win in baseball. Like you don't need the
No,
actual optimal lineup. And if Jacob deGrom goes out there and scores 20, 22 DraftKings points, would he be the best play? Like
no.
no. But as long as some of the cheap bats come through, which is obviously just going to happen very frequently in baseball, you're going to be fine anyway. Like 20 to
Yeah,
22 raw points, you're going to be able to make that up in on most slates, even if somebody else goes out there and gets 28, 30. So,
right. Because there's only 28% of the lineups then that have that opportunity to get that other piece right,
right,
too.
right, yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just yeah, is he a top two scoring pitcher 72% of the time? No, but nearly half the time he is. And then there's also some not low percentage where he's the third or the fourth best, and who cares?
Yeah. It's bonkers, but jam them in. Adrian Sampson, no ownership. Do you have any interest in Sampson against the Mets?
No, I do not.
Okay. We're not going to talk about the Mets at all. There's no justification for getting, or the Cubs rather. There's no justification for a Cubs stack, right?
By the way, I am also seeing their implied total at 2.
Okay.
So it's moving in the direction we wanted.
Yeah.
Or
no Cubs.
Differently.
You can't roster a Cubs bet, right?
I don't really see how.
Yeah. Okay. Mets
Sean
eighth
will.
and eighth and top stack. I don't even. This might be like the thing that breaks it all. Like
right.
There's a critical mass where like I can't take that one on. Eighth and top stack, 13th in ownership. But they seem totally fine here. I just don't love the park.
Yeah, I don't love the park. Sampson is just kind of middle of the road. Doesn't strike guys out. Only a 16.6% strikeout percentage. About 1 home run per 9 innings. There is plenty of power for the Mets. Lindor's going to look good. Nimmo looks good. Alonso, Vogelbach at first base both look fine. But like you said, the park's not great. 4.5 implied run total. So they're just another team kind of lumped in with a lot of similar looking teams today. Only getting 2% ownership, but also not offering much in the way of value.
No, by the way, it's not loading 2020 data or 2022 data. All right, let's keep it moving then. God, DeGrom is just nuts. Red Sox and Yanks, 3.7 run implied total for the Red Sox, 4.7 for the Yanks. Nick Pivetta and Garrett Cole. Pivetta, 7,600, just 2% owned. Garrett Cole, 10,900, second most expensive pitcher behind DeGrom, projected for just 20% ownership. What a bargain here for Cole. I still like getting to Cole. To me, he's the second best raw scoring option that exists from a pitching perspective. I am over that 20% mark, which is going to make for some incredibly expensive lineups. But even against, like, I don't like targeting the Red Sox or anything, but I still like Cole at least a little bit.
Yeah, I
think he's like properly owned.
Yeah, no, I was confused by something in the crunch that I'd run, and then I realized I hadn't unchecked the first game pitchers. Yeah, I'm with you on Cole. Like, it is nice from the aspect of just he's getting like less than 1/3 the ownership of DeGrom, and he's still Garrett Cole. But even when you look at the top 2 pitcher percentages, he's much closer to neutral than DeGrom is. But it's not like we have Cole really going under owned there either. Like, he's still getting some ownership, and like I said before, we have him projected about 7.5 points behind DeGrom. Like, that is a massive gap. Obviously, Cole has a really high ceiling, and he's certainly capable of going out there and getting 30 to 40 points, but he's just not going to do it nearly as often as DeGrom is. And it's only a $900 price difference. So it's pretty unlikely that you have a lot of lineups where you can't just find $900 for DeGrom.
Yep. Yeah, we're on the same page there. And look, a Red Sox matchup is significantly worse than it is.
Like, not that implied run totals are the end all be all, because they're certainly not. But 3.7 for Boston is, a modest run total, and it's nearly 2 runs higher than the one DeGrom's facing.
Yeah, there's a lot of additional like problems from 3.7 run implied total. Either way, I like Cole. I will be getting to Cole. No one will be flirting with DeGrom today from an ownership perspective. Any Pivetta? I can't imagine it.
Yeah, I don't really think so. Not an ideal spot. He's getting 2% ownership, 7.5% chance of being top 2. Just one of those guys where under-owned, sure. Necessary in lineups, probably not.
First in top stack, second in ownership. That would be the New York Yankees here. I'm a little bit under the field, but I'm still getting more of the bottom than I am the 26% owned Aaron Judge. Not to say that you shouldn't be rostering Aaron Judge. There's a cash option for you guys. But to me, a little bit over-owned. They're picking up the value sort of in the wrong way, because this is not the normal Yankees lineup. There's a lot of less than stellar bats.
Yeah, like they kind of get pushed up from a value standpoint because you have a cheap Cabrera, Trevino, Andujar. The problem is these cheap guys aren't very good.
Yeah.
It is, kind of appealing to just be able to pair them with Stanton and Judge, who are good. Obviously, Judge, extremely good. And Pivetta, has had plenty of home run issues throughout his career. This year, he hasn't been quite as bad. 1.16 home runs per nine. Still gives some up. So yeah, like I get why the Yankees are getting ownership from a value standpoint. I get it from a Pivetta gives up power standpoint, but also probably going a little bit over-owned here.
Happy to get there. I have about 9%. Public's at 13. They're in 8% of my five mans. That will work. Judge and Torres both showed up pretty highly for me in that cash crunch. Stanton to a lesser extent, and Andujar to a lesser extent, but Judge and Torres both look good. Judge, obviously, because he's Aaron Judge. Torres, $3,900 second baseman, certainly helps. I don't have much for the Red Sox here. 17th in our top stack, 20th in ownership. Are they under-owned? Maybe a little bit. Do I care about that once you're like the 12th team? Not really.
Yeah, exactly. Cole obviously still really, really good. I don't have much of a case to get to the Red Sox on an 11-game slate against Gerrit Cole.
Then we go to the Twins and Royals. I'm actually really excited for this one. 4.8 run implied total for the Twins. That's why. 3.6 run implied total for the Royals. Joe Ryan and Chris Bubich. Joe Ryan, 8,100 here. 25% owned at that salary against the Royals. Bubich 5% owned at just 5,200. Let's start with the Joe Ryan ownership. He's feeling quite a bit over-owned to me. Not that I don't understand it, but like 25 feels like a lot.
Yeah, it feels like a lot when Montgomery is only getting 17 for 300 more.
Yeah.
Obviously, Logan Gilbert's got a much more difficult matchup, but he's also getting 1/6 the ownership. I get it, though. I mean, Ryan does give you good strikeout stuff. You have a Kansas City offense that has talent, but also hasn't been great. They do have Pasquantino back, so not only does that put a very good hitter in the middle of that order, it puts a guy that doesn't strike out. And then also Ryan this year, again, I don't have the splits in front of me, but I do know that he's only striking out like sub 20% of lefties compared to like 30% of righties. You are likely to have a lineup that has 6 left-handed bats from Kansas City. Now, a couple of those bats are probably Drew Waters and Nicky Lopez, so still probably strikeouts, but or outs in general. Lopez doesn't strike out a lot, but that does make him look a little bit worse. But the mid-range pitching just isn't very good on this slate either. And I think you're going to be able to make just a lot of really high upside lineups where you have, Ryan plus DeGrom. So I get why the ownership's there. I think maybe it should be a little bit more balanced between him, Montgomery, and to a lesser extent, Gilbert.
Yeah, I like Montgomery a little bit more than Joe Ryan in this spot. Not that I don't like Ryan. I'm thinking like more like 15% seems about a little bit more reasonable. Bubich, I don't really have anything to advocate for, although I don't think that this Twins lineup is particularly great. At least not the one that I have right now, but I don't need Bubich here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the lineup's particularly great. I do think that Bubich is underpriced at 5,200 just because he's a major league starting pitcher that is fully stretched out. I hope I'm not getting to him. I can't really say with much confidence that I won't be. He's getting 5% ownership, 4% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. There's probably just enough value bats on the slate that you don't need to get there. The one thing that I could see kind of pushing him up, though, for me, is just that I don't like the mid-range that much. And the guys that I would like Joe Ryan, are getting ownership. So maybe I just end up getting an extra bat, throw Aaron Judge in some more lineups and go to Bubich, but I hope not.
Apparently, we're going to do these guys in reverse because I think that's how it's going to work out for us. I don't need the Bubich value because I'm getting it from his teammates. They are 12th in top stack, 10th in ownership, but they are in 14% of my lineups. The Kansas City Royals are one of my preferred stacks because I have so much DeGrom, I have so much Cole, Darvish, Kershaw to a lesser extent. My dog doesn't seem to like this take. But I am getting to the Royals as value because you get Melendez, Witt, and Perez priced like they should be. 2 of those guys having MPEs. And then you get a team full of 2K guys, including like Pasquantino at 2,100. Like, I'm going to get to the Royals a bunch here. Yeah, and I get the benefit of the Joe Ryan ownership on the opposite side, too.
What'd you say?
I said, and there's the benefit of the Joe Ryan ownership on the opposite side, too.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just like you were saying, and it goes back to kind of like I was saying, the Orioles will get bumped for me a little bit because of Henderson and Rutschman. You have Melendez with catcher outfield. You have Perez, who's always one of the best catcher options. Witt, third base shortstop, is just going to show up in optimal lineups a lot. Pasquantino is wildly underpriced at 2,100. And then you kind of just throw in. I mean, Nick Prado's a top 100 prospect. Massey's average. Michael A. Taylor's been an average hitter this year. So I'm with you. Like, I don't feel great about Kansas City, but they do have a lot of talent given the a lot of MPE, and then also plenty of guys that offer salary savings.
On the opposite side, we have the Twins fourth in top stack, third in ownership because they are the number one value stack of the day. Carlos Correa at 4,900. No one else in the lineup that I have here north of 3,100. But I am under the field at this mark. Do I think that the Twins look pretty good here? Yeah, of course. But this park nerfs righty power. It's 8 righty bats. So I have 6% Twins at 12% ownership. This is a bigger fade for me. I'm getting to more Royals than I am Twins.
Yeah, I mean, from a value standpoint, I certainly understand why the ownership is coming into the Twins, but they're also, it's probably just a spot where, maybe I use them as 2-mans, 3-mans, but then, get elsewhere for 5-man stacks. Individually, Kyle Garlick, Correa, Miranda, these guys all look good. Gary Sanchez at 3K flat is probably on the short list of catchers. He was only in one of the 100 I made using the Stokastic projections. It mostly ended up being Shea Langoliers, but wouldn't fault anybody for getting to Sanchez. Yeah, I think from a value standpoint, they look good. They're going to project well. Probably a spot that's going a little bit overowned, though.
Yeah, I got Garlic in pretty much everything, which should be no surprise in this spot. Sanchez was in 10%.
Yeah, but Garlic not showing up really either. I'm really confused.
I mean, $2,300 leadoff hitter. We got to be having him projected some sort of other way then.
Yeah, I mean, he got into like 8%, but it was Judge in 100, Mullins in 66, Hayes in 48. Like, I don't know why you'd be going Hayes over Garlic, though.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I got Garlic in 79. The only other guy that I got out of this game a lot is actually on the opposite side for Pasquantino.
Yeah, which he didn't show up. It was 90% Miranda, which I agree with.
You would have Miranda over Pasquantino?
Assuming that the $1,000 doesn't really do anything.
I only have Miranda by 0.3 of a point. So it'll be Pasquantino for me for sure. I assume that $1,000.
Also, Joe Ryan in 48%. So,
wow. Yeah, I have it basically only DeGrom, Cole,
and I have it set for no opposing hitters. So that's keeping Pasquantino out.
Okay, that'll do it. Weird game though. Lots of moving parts. Whether it's playing Joe Ryan, keeping an eye on that ownership, the value of the Royals, the excessive value of the Twins. Lots to look at there. All right, let's talk PrizePicks. I'm excited to hit you with the DeGrom PrizePicks line. It might be 100
under, I assume.
You would think. If anybody can transcend it, it'll be him.
Right.
If you click on the link in the description of this video, sign up using that link. You can get up to $100 on your first deposit at PrizePicks. So even if you only put in like $20, they'll match with 20, but you can get up to 100. You don't have to worry about having an optimizer or anything like that. We're picking player props. You're building a parlay card. If you can hit 5 of them on one, you'll net up to 10x your entry fee. Right now, I am looking at the pitcher fantasy scores for today, and I'm going to hit Adam with one. This is FanDuel scoring for people that don't know. Jake DeGrom, over under 50.5. And I'm going to let you know right now, I have the over.
We have the under by a lot.
I got him at 51.8.
44.7.
Wow. Yeah, 51.8 for me. I did not expect to take an over. And I wouldn't take that over, but it's there. Garrett Cole, over under 42.5. This one I have as an under.
Yeah, under. I had switched back to DraftKings, so I was like way under.
Yeah, 21.
Yeah.
And then finally, we'll round it out with Adam's favorite pitcher in the league, Kris Bubic, over under 19.5.
Over.
Yeah, of course. You're so predictable sometimes. Obviously, you were going to take the over on Bubic. Guys, go check out PrizePicks for real and hit that like button. Let's see if we can get up to 100, even though there's only 200 people here. Cardinals and Brewers. 4.7 run implied total for the Cards, 3.3 for the Brew Crew. Jordan Montgomery and Josh Lindblom, I believe. Montgomery, 17% owned, 8,400. We kind of talked about him a little bit earlier with regards to Joe Ryan. I like Montgomery more than I like Ryan. I've got him projected 1.5 points higher. $300 is not going to offset that. So I think Montgomery should be owned more than Ryan. The fact that he is less is making it even easier for me to get there. 26% aggregate strikeout rate on the Brewers lineup that I have right now is kind of crazy.
Yeah, plenty of strikeouts there. I think you can argue. I think reasonable minds can pretty much differ on Ryan or Montgomery. I think they're certainly the two best options in that price range. We have Montgomery slightly ahead, like 0.08 of a point ahead. So basically the same thing. Either way, it makes me think that if Ryan is going to get more ownership, I probably just end up getting a little bit more Montgomery. He's been good all season long. He's been really good since joining the Cardinals. Plenty of strikeouts in the Brewers lineup, like you said. They do have some power, but Montgomery's pretty good at mitigating that. Overall this year, less than 1 home run per 9 innings, 3.47 xFIP. I like getting the Montgomery here.
You and me both. Josh Lindblom or whatever is going for the Brewers, I won't be interested in really either way.
Yeah, I think it's Matt Bush opening and then Lindblom, but basically just a bullpen game.
Yep. Cardinals are 10th in top stack, 18th in ownership at 1%. I actually am about a percentage point higher in top stack. I have them 8th. These guys are going like wildly underowned. Is this just a function of us not having the correct stuff in because of the opener?
It's certainly possible.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean 1% ownership. I don't think that's going to happen.
No. Yeah, we have.
I mean, I don't think they're going to be like crazy popular because
no.
4.7 implied run total is pretty normal for this slate. They are relatively expensive when you have Tommy Edman at 5,500, Goldschmidt at 6,100, Arenado at 58, O'Neill at 54. The rest of the lineup is cheap, but a lot of bats that you would want to get to that are cost prohibitive. Certainly
a positive leverage stack to get to in a GPP where if there's going to be no ownership here, like this is a team you want to take a shot on. Like I got 7%. I love that for where our ownership is currently. And that's not a gigantic stand either. Brewers, I don't want at all. Do you have anything here for Milwaukee?
No. I mean, they do have power, but this isn't really a spot where I want to get to them.
All righty. We'll go Rangers and A's. 4.6 run implied total for the Rangers, 3.9 for the A's. Cole Ragans and Ken Waldichuk. No ownership going to Ragans at 5,400. 6% ownership going to Waldichuk at 6,200. I actually thought that I might get a little bit more of Waldichuk here, but the problem is I'm getting to a lot of the Rangers. So we'll start with pitching. Do you like either one of them?
I think Waldichuk's kind of interesting just from a talent standpoint, and the fact he's 6,200 sort of just fits into that same thought process that I was mentioning with Bubic, where I like Montgomery, I like Ryan, but they're both getting ownership. Outside of that, that whole mid-range kind of just has difficult matchups. So maybe you do just go to a lower owned pitcher that does have some semblance of talent. But I still doubt that I really get to that much of him.
Okay.
Like we haven't projected at 12 DraftKings points.
The A's are 6th in ownership at 6.5%. They are 2nd in top value. The Rangers are 8th in ownership, but they are 7th in our top stack tool. Which team do you prefer?
Oh man, that's tough. Tried to say Oakland and my body just wouldn't even let me. I guess Texas. I mean, they just have the better hitters, but
I'm getting to a lot of Texas right now.
Yeah. I mentioned it earlier. I do think Langoliers is very, very short list of catcher options in cash.
He was, I got to more Yasmani Grandal, which we're about to get to, but Langoliers was one of the guys there. Yeah, I'm getting to, double-digit exposure to the Rangers, basically up and down the board. Very minimal ownership coming into these guys. Josh Young at 12%, Semien at 10%. Everybody else is in basically very, very low single digits. So sign me up for some Texas here. I don't like the idea of targeting against Waldichuk, but at least from a run total perspective, it seems like Texas, there's not as much respect for Waldichuk as there is for just offense here. And then I am getting to a little bit of the A's, but I'm basically neutral to the field. You got to find some value somewhere, and this is a decent spot to do it.
Agreed. There's some kind of warship just casually floating past my apartment right now, so that's interesting.
Warship.
I don't know what kind it is. It's got like a helipad on it. It's got like a spinning radar thing.
And they're just gonna shoot a missile into your apartment.
It has Canadian flags. I don't know. Maybe.
They don't have bullets, do they?
I think they're Canadian.
They shoot like maple syrup bombs
Right.
and Tim Hortons donuts and shit. I don't have anything else here. Langoliers was the only guy that showed up in anything resembling like an important list. So I'm going to have way more of this game than I thought I would, though. That's for sure. Then we get to White Sox Rockies. This is where I'm getting my cash catcher. 4.7 run implied total for the White Sox, 3.5 for the Rockies. Michael Kopech and Chad Kuhl going here. Kopech, 14% owned. I guess this is how you get to Michael Kopech. He's 7,100 and he gets to face the Rockies. I'm not getting there. He has been really not good as of late. This is just not a spot that I have Michael Kopech. Probably a little over-owned, but about where he should be for this slate.
Yeah, still just surprising to me that he hasn't been better this year. This is certainly a good matchup. 21.5% strikeout percentage for Kopech, 4.88 xFIP, 12% walk percentage this year. But if you're going to get right against anybody, it is the Rockies outside of Coors. Only supposed to be like 70 degrees in Chicago today as well. 3.35 implied run total. I think he's just like, if you're not getting to the Montgomery and Ryan price tier, I think you just land on Kopech a lot, which is perfectly fine with me. 13% ownership makes some sense. He's just not somebody you're going to feel really confident in, but it is a really good matchup. And just so many pitchers in that price range have really tough matchups.
I don't think you're going to go to Chad Kuhl. So I want to know if you're going to White Sox bats, 6th in top stack, 5th in top value. So you get that weird situation where they're high ranked in both things. 4th now in aggregate ownership at 11%. I am getting to the White Sox for sure, but a little bit under that 11% mark. They just look good because they face Chad Kuhl, but 4 outfield bats, no MPEs. They're kind of like a weird team to stack, but I still like it in this park.
Yeah, agreed. They've obviously been disappointing this year. Elvis Andrus is still the worst leadoff hitter in the history of all of baseball. Yoan Moncada is cheap. Used to be good. Maybe he'll figure it out again. Abreu's cheap. Jimenez is cheap, or cheap enough. Gavin Sheets, 2,600. So I think you get there. Chad Kuhl, certainly hasn't been very good ever in his career. 17.7% strikeout percentage, 4.9 xFIP this year. So, yeah, I like getting the White Sox.
As I mentioned before, this is where I was getting a couple of White Sox, honestly. Moncada in 96% of the lineups that I generated. Andrus, unfortunately, in 71%. Grandal, Gavin Sheets. Just a lot of White Sox popping up for me. But decent. You get the shortstop, third base, first base stuff at the top, makes it a little bit easier. On the Rockies side, though, 16th in top stack, 14th in ownership, 14th in value. Unfortunately, I am also getting to a little bit of the Rockies bats. I don't know if I'm just targeting against Kopech or I'm just begging for unowned guys to roster that are relatively cheap, but these guys aren't even relatively cheap. I'm still getting like 6% Rockies. Something feels broken.
I kind of like the idea of it just because Kopech really hasn't been good this year. And, clearly from a DFS standpoint, you can look at him, look at his price tag and make a strong case for getting to him just because the Rockies are so bad. But there's a pretty decent chance that he just pitches poorly as he tends to do. And you do have some power here with McMahon, CJ Crone, Brendan Rodgers, Grichuk, Blackman. Those guys are all fine. Michael Tolia's got power, multi-position eligibility. He's 2,600 at 1 to 2% ownership. I'm with you in liking the Rockies a bit.
I did not expect to hear that, but that makes me feel a little bit worse. So other than McMahon getting ownership, yeah, I'm getting to everything. Toglia, you mentioned 2,600. You get the MPE. I'm getting a bunch there because there's no projected ownership. I am oddly exposed to this game just because of the Rockies. And I will happily get on the opposite side of this Michael Kopech ownership. So today's probably the day that he comes out here and is able to go 6 1/3 with 15 Ks. It's the worst. Already got. Go ahead.
So GQ said Orioles would rather have Andrus than Odor. I bet Andrus was on waivers. The Orioles didn't want him.
The whole league could have him.
Yeah. Yeah, and also we're talking about a leadoff hitter, not the worst player in the Orioles lineup.
Yeah. Yeah. There is no.
I can guarantee that we would rather have Cedric Mullins.
There is no logical reason that Elvis Andrus is the leadoff hitter for any team at all. But it makes a little bit more sense that it is the White Sox. I don't know how long he's been in this leadoff spot, but if any team's going to do it, it's probably the one that has Tony La Russa as the manager, because he is.
I think they started doing it after La Russa left the team, but yeah, I'm with you, because
that's why Andrus I started to say
like if you talk to people born in 1930, Elvis Andrus is exactly what you want hitting at the top of an order.
Yeah, he should hit. He's the prototypical 9 hitter. Yeah, like having a good glove shortstop, that's where he belongs. And
yeah, like he's been more 34 wins in his career. He's been negative offensively for well over half the seasons that he's played.
He's been negative 70 runs offensively for his career.
Yeah, plus 128 defensively.
Yeah, he's an exceptional glove, one of the best shortstops in the history of baseball defensively, and an absolute nothing offensive player. If we want to talk about his defense being underrated, I can get behind that discussion. Like, no one's ever really going to talk about Elvis Andrus, and he's been a 10-year shortstop as an elite glove. Woof. Woof. Alrighty. One last promo code for you guys before we round this one out and kick it over to the NFL team. Yeah, NFL team works here. Scramble. Today is the last day for this promo. 7 days for $7 gets you access to our Stokastic Plus NFL package. That includes everything, absolutely everything. You get the lineup generator, player projections, ownership projections, top stacks, boom bust, and more. Everything that's involved with the NFL, you get it. $7 for just 7 days, and this one goes away today. Does not include Fantasy Cruncher. Got to let you know right now. But everything else, it's in the package. So use that promo code SCRAMBLE, $7 for 7 days. Diamondbacks and Dodgers. 3.2 run implied total for the D-backs. 4.4 for the Dodgers. Merrill Kelly, Clayton Kershaw. Kelly, 9K, unowned. Kershaw, 10K, 9% owned. I am getting to a bit of Kershaw, but just around 10%. So seems like the field is right on where that should be. Kelly, I didn't really get to. Probably a little under-owned, but hard to justify.
Yeah, it's just so difficult to get to a pitcher against the Dodgers. Like, he's certainly one of the guys in that price range with Montgomery and Ryan, where from a talent standpoint, he's not really that different, but the matchup is just absolutely brutal, and it's just so tough to get to him against the Dodgers. On the other side, I like the idea of Kershaw at low ownership. Obviously, he's really good. He threw 86 pitches last time out, 74 the start before that, 66 prior to going on the injured list. So, like, I would expect you're getting 90, 95 pitches here, but I also don't expect the Dodgers to push him really at all. I think they just get him to a level where they can just maintain until the postseason. So I don't think that you're getting, 110 pitch games from Kershaw anytime soon, but I do expect maybe he throws a little bit more here. More likely, he just throws what it takes to get 6 innings. Like, he threw 86 last time out. If it took him 92 here, I assume that's also fine. And he's not pitching the 7th inning either way. So he looks fine. But also the Diamondbacks are a tough team to strike out. They have certainly gotten better by adding some of their young guys to their starting lineup as well. And Kershaw also is just a victim of being on the same slate as Jacob deGrom.
Yes, he is. Bats should be a slightly easier thing to talk about, but we have the Dodgers 3rd in top stack today. 7.8%, 11th in ownership at 3%. I'm much lighter here on the Dodgers prospects. I have them 10th in top stack, 2.5% below. I'm not really getting to the Dodgers. Now, would I want to get to the Dodgers or Yankees? These good teams, yeah, for sure. But I think they're like, I really don't love the idea of going into a park that just absolutely negates home runs against a pitcher that's good enough against Merrill Kelly. Like, I just don't see it today. They're fine. A couple percentage points works for me. I don't see them as a huge, positive leverage team.
Yeah, the value is going to be what pulls them down for me a little bit. They're just so expensive. And for example, if you on DraftKings, if you start a lineup with Jacob deGrom and Joe Ryan, just using them because they're clearly two of the most popular pitchers, it leaves you with $3,762.
Can't even play them.
Dollars per position. There is
you have Gallo, Taylor, Bellinger,
right. Joey Gallo's 3,400, Taylor's 37, Bellinger's 38. Everybody else is at least $1,000 more expensive than that. So, yeah, maybe that's where you go with like Bubic or something. But I think I'm typically going to prefer getting, the better pitching and then just hoping the Dodgers don't break the slate. They will look a little bit better for me just because of Mookie Betts being second base outfield now. But him and Taylor are the only guys in that projected lineup with MPE. So probably won't move it too much.
And then on the opposite side, I don't really have any interest in targeting the Diamondbacks against Kershaw.
No, I'm good there.
Mariners and Padres. 3.7 run implied total for the Mariners, 3.6 for the Pods. Logan Gilbert, Yu Darvish. Logan Gilbert, 8,700, 4% owned. Yu Darvish, 10,600, 12% owned. And I think you can make a case that Darvish is probably like a hair under owned, but somewhere in that 10 to 20% range is where he's going to end up landing. I think it looks fine. It's exactly, I have 10%. Gilbert on the opposite side, pretty difficult to want to get to him against the Padres. Good pitcher, but ultimately, I don't think I have a lot from this game at all, including pitching.
Yeah, I mean, Darvish we have projected as the third highest scoring pitcher here behind DeGrom and Cole. He's getting some ownership, but not a ton. 12% seems perfectly fine. Don't love the matchup. Do like the park. 3.5 implied run total is nice. Darvish striking out about 25% of hitters this year. 3.64 xFIP. He's good. I think he's pretty similar to Kershaw, where he's very clearly coming in behind DeGrom for me. I would prefer to get to Cole if I can, if I'm paying up. But then also from a roster construction standpoint, I'm likely to just be getting to that mid-range, whether it's Montgomery, Ryan, Kopech, somebody in there.
Is there anything appealing about going to either one of these teams other than they're just like talented bats?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's kind of like the same case that you would make for the pitching. Darvish is talented, Logan Gilbert's talented and in a good park. For the hitting, it's, they're talented, but not even in a good park. I think if this were a smaller slate, I'd be really likely to get to at least one of the Padres or the Mariners. Yeah. Given the size of this slate, I think it's more likely that, maybe I end up over the field on San Diego, but that doesn't really mean much when I'm saying, I got 4% and they're 2%. Like, I'd be very surprised if either of these teams comes out as an actual priority for me.
Yeah, I'm with you there. It's very tough, like 87 park factor for runs, 90 park factor for homers on both sides. Gilbert and Darvish are both above average to good starting pitchers. Go even higher if you want. Like, that's just not generally a recipe for offense, particularly when it's like priced appropriately. And then we close it out. Giants and Braves, 3.4 run implied total for the Giants, 4.3 for the Braves. Jacob Junis going for San Francisco, 7,900. Kyle Wright going for the Braves, 9,400, projected for about 6% ownership. I don't see either pitcher as a huge priority. This is a spot where I think Kyle Wright is probably a little bit under-owned, but again, is, the seventh or eighth best option you can get to, and then it stops being all that interesting.
Yeah, he's just he's there. He's going on their own. He's a good way to offset ownership in your lineup. He's kind of at a dead zone price-wise because you're just obviously going to be able to upgrade your lineups going from him to Montgomery or Ryan. So that's why they're getting more ownership. But it does kind of make me like the idea of him just if you happen to have a lineup where, say you're running a 5-3 stack, you got the guys you want, you just have $9,400 left over. Kyle Wright makes some sense there just because he is good. It is a good park to pitch in, and he's just not getting ownership. So I like that. I like him from that standpoint, but I think realistically in a lot of lineups, you're going to be like, oh, well, I like this lineup with Kyle Wright, but I like this one with an $8,100 Joe Ryan more.
I thought he might funnel a little bit more ownership just because Kershaw's $600 ahead of him. And, right. It makes it a little bit harder to climb that spot, but still not getting there. But that's what's going to happen when 75% of the lineups, or 75% ownership's going to DeGrom. There's just not a lot left for other people to take big stands. Bats, this one should be pretty easy as well. Park factor is fine, but power dies here. The Giants are 20th in top stack. The Braves are 5th. They're 7th in ownership. That's mostly just Acuna. I don't really want to get either offense here either. Not that I wouldn't want to target against Junis, but there's better spots.
I don't love either offense either. It's also supposed to be 60 degrees, it looks like, in San Francisco. The Braves are certainly Dodgers-esque in that, I'm never upset when their bats make it into my lineup, but I hate the park. Don't mind the matchup, but not really great pricing, at least on the good part of the Braves order either.
Well, let's sum it up here before we kick it over to NFL Strategy Show First Look. Who are your favorite pitchers?
Jacob deGrom, Ryan Montgomery, I guess.
Should we say DeGrom's name twice just to let everybody know how
as many
firm
times
it
as
is?
play Jacob deGrom.
Yeah. For me, the three guys that I have the most are DeGrom, Cole, and Jordan Montgomery. Joseph Ramirez, I hope you get a tummy ache today. Favorite stacks. The guy in chat said go Ajax. That's who Liverpool plays today in the Champions League. So, I don't want anything bad to happen to him, but if you accidentally shart or something, I'd be cool with it. Favorite stacks.
I like Baltimore. White Sox look pretty good. They are getting ownership though. I like Texas. KC. Yeah, I'll go with those.
Texas and Kansas City, the two teams that I have the most right now, and that's well over the field. Rockies and Cardinals, I have less than that, but also still well over the field. I am neutral to the White Sox and Yankees. Those are the teams that are pulling ownership. Right now, I'm quite light on Twins, Orioles, Nats. They are the three of the higher owned teams for today.
Julian Merriweather starting game 1 for the Blue Jays. I wonder if that means that Manoah's pitching game 2.
Could be. That'll be something that Adam and I will dig into on the deeper dive later today at 5 p.m. But now we are turning it over to the NFL Strategy Show First Look Edition. Good luck to everybody. Thank you guys for watching. Hit the like button on your way out the door. And thank you to PrizePicks for being the presenting sponsor of this show. Peace.